And good afternoon once again, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us here at WBOC at Fox 21. I'm Steve Hammond.
And I'm Alice Davis. This is a WBOC news break. First off, take a look at this picture. This is a live picture right now out of Rehoboth Beach, and that's the ocean right on the other side of that fence.
Something else as Irene continues to churn our way. Things are going to get more dicey as it gets dark and as Irene gets closer. Jeremy Tucker is there in Rehoboth. We'll have a live report from him momentarily, but let's begin with Brian Keene, who's got some new news about Irene and is now moving out over the open ocean again.
Yeah, the eye of Irene is pretty much done with North Carolina, is about to enter the open ocean one more time. Here locally, we are getting tremendous amounts of heavy rainfall, especially for the northern two-thirds of the peninsula.
Our reporter Jeremy Tucker is live outside in these harsh winds in Rehoboth Beach. He's been reporting deteriorating conditions there all evening. And Jeremy, we hear you're having just a hard time standing outside.
Good evening, everyone. You know, what a difference a couple of hours can make here at Rehoboth Beach. 2 or 3 hours ago, very little rain, winds maybe 30 miles an hour. Right now, winds maybe 60 miles an hour. We're being blocked by a high-rise building now. I'm going to attempt to stand back and show you the full force of the wind here in Rehoboth, probably 50 to 60 miles an hour, maybe even blowing more than that. Looking up and down the boardwalk, this place is essentially a ghost town. Behind us, the ocean. We see waves perhaps 6, 7, 10 feet tall. The storm surge is coming up. The water is very close to the dunes right now, but not up to the boardwalk. And of course, that is the main concern here, flooding over the dunes and damaging businesses. Now I'm going to try and walk over and show you some of the other damage here in Rehoboth. Because the winds are blowing so strong, some of the windows and some of the high-rise buildings have started to blow out. And obviously, it's very hard to stand right now. Because there's so much rain and so much wind, there's also severe flooding in parts of Rehoboth where some of the drains cannot simply keep up with the demands of the rain. So you can see 1.5 meters underwater here. And this is the scene we're seeing all over Rehoboth and Lewis. It's hard to get reports of significant damage right now, but certainly there must be some. And because the storm is just coming up the coast, we can only imagine that things are only going to get a lot worse. So again, an amazing change in the past 2 or 3 hours from a storm that didn't seem so bad to a storm that is extremely severe. And I don't think, as a reporter, I've ever seen winds this bad in Delaware before. We're live here in Rehoboth Beach. I'm Jeremy Tucker. Now back to you.
All right, Jeremy, let's get to a safe spot there.
It's picking up out here. I actually got off the phone with the Seaford city manager. She tells me there's a lot of power outages because there's a lot of tree limbs down on power lines. There's homes being flooded right now. So, folks, just be safe. Stay indoors. You know, don't venture out. I can't imagine trying to drive a car in this wind right now. It's not safe.
So what brought you here tonight?
Well, yesterday the police came to our door and advised us 5 o'clock today that we, have to be out. It's a flood street, so we decided to come here, safest bet.
So you feel like it's safe for your daughter, sir?
Definitely. And we have a pet as well, so they accommodated, our dog, so you can't beat that. I'm in a safe place.
Tornado warning started in the Milton area, continuing on a northwest track towards the Houston area, the Ellendale area. If you live there and you can hear us, you may be listening to us on the radio through our Clear Channel station. You need to get to your safe place right now.
You certainly do not want to be outside at a time like this, especially if you're in Queen Anne's County. Expecting those tornado warnings to kind of subside for folks in Sussex and Kent within the next couple of minutes. But folks in Queen Anne's, we are seeing this storm cluster continue to progress towards you. Do a little storm tracking here. We're most concerned with this little red cluster right there moving at about 45 miles per hour. So folks in the Marydale area, you got about 1 minute or so before it's on top of you.
Here, can you describe for us what you heard or saw?
Yeah, I was sitting at the dinner table when I heard what sounded like a train coming down the road, and it lasted for about 10 or 15 seconds, and then nothing. And that's when I realized that something had happened and called my wife, who was at the fire station.
Really?
Tarps flap in the wind as they patch what's left of the Engel family's roof.
There was a big explosion, like it just blew up. It just sounded like a bomb going off.
Grateful, happy, thankful. God blessed us again, and we're ready to go home and play with toys.
Sonia Houghton fled her home Saturday afternoon after tree limbs started falling on her property.
I'm not sure I want to go home. I know I have to, but I'm not sure I want to.
One house is basically an island, water everywhere. In Crisfield, the main drag was flooded, which is not unusual, but on the east side of Crisfield, down the neck as they call it, look at all of that standing water. Cars taking it very slowly down the roads, and people finally venturing out of their houses and checking for damage to their homes and their yards.
Now, WBOC News at 6, Delmarva's news leader.
Breaking news happening right now. Major flooding in Sussex County this evening. We've got the latest on some dangerous conditions. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to WBOC News at 6. I'm Steve Hammond. Let's get right to it. Major flooding throughout the Seaford area right now in Sussex County. If you live in Seaford, the message right now is to stay off the roads. Much of the town is underwater after a storm cell dumped inches and inches of rain on that town over the last several hours. Currently, there is a flood warning in effect for Kent and Sussex counties in Delaware, as well as Caroline County in Maryland. Back to Seaford. That's where WBOC's Angelica Spanos is, just arriving on the scene. Angelica, tell us what it's like there.
Well, Steve, the fire chief says he got the call here today at 3:45 and has been on the scene ever since. You'll see they're pumping water off West Poplar Street through these yellow tubes down to the railroad tracks for drainage. The chief says if you're in Seaford, do not leave your house. You'll see how much water is on these roads. Do not try to drive through those.
And let's check in with WBOC's Michael Aparti, who has just arrived there on the scene. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Steven, it's definitely in the parking lot, at least near Route 13 where we are now. You can see I'm towards the edge here as I walk along. There's definitely a few inches on the ground here, and it's even worse behind you. In fact, what we've been talking about people not driving into the water, look behind me here. You can see there's a car out there right now that's stuck, and there's a pickup truck back there trying to help those folks out. In fact, I know there is somebody in there, and I sent that guy over there just to check on them because I could not walk over there myself. As we were driving into the Seaford area down Route 13, we could tell even off the major highway there were a lot of businesses that had their parking lots flooded and a lot of roads in the area that were on higher ground that still had large patches of water. So flooding a concern not only in the city but a little bit outside the city here along the highway.
This flooding today is probably worse than it was 5 years ago. As you can see, the intersection down there is completely blocked. All the houses around here have basements which are completely flooded, so there's going to be quite a bit of property damage.
But first, we'd like to join with Chris Quinn, and Chris is actually a good Samaritan. He came here to the Walmart basically as a customer and ended up going out a little while ago and helping that woman who was stuck in the car out there. Chris, when you got out there, what was it like?
Cold and wet. She had tried leaving the parking lot, and the police had stopped her and told her to go back in. The waves basically took over the engine, so she was stuck.
And it looked like it was pretty much no way of getting out of there.
Absolutely not. It was kind of funny. She said, if I open the door, will water come in? Well, I looked in her window, and it was just flooded inside, so I said, come on out.
Now, First at 5 on Fox 21.
Take a look at this. News watcher Andy White sent us this cell phone video on apparent funnel cloud in Ocean City. This video taken late this afternoon. Chopper 16 is flying over the resort town right now. We've got a look at the damage coming up. Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Hammond. Welcome to First at 5 on Fox 21. We begin tonight in Ocean City with this funnel cloud, possible tornado, could have been straight line winds, whatever it is, there is some damage in Ocean City.
My brother called me and told me that a tornado just hit, and he went running, for shelter, and I was on my way. I live in West Ocean City. I saw it on the WBOC app, and I was on my way.
What happened? What did you see? I was up on my 5th floor condo, waiting for my friend Rex to show up. He knocks on the door, and I open it up, and I'm like, hey, Rex, and he's like, Don, there's a tornado behind us. And I turn around, I can see this tornado, the funnel cloud, just as clear as a bell over the bay. I don't know if you can see that, but got some movie footage of it. He says there's a funnel cloud, so I run in right away and get my camera, start videotaping it, and then the thing starts heading right for our building. So we just ran inside, went in the bathroom in the middle of the building. The whole building started to shake like crazy, and then as soon as it stopped, we ran out to the balcony, and we could see the funnel cloud again over the ocean, just pulling up the water. It was just amazing. It went on for, 30, 40 seconds.
In terms of damage, the best vantage point we can give you was from Chopper 16. So with that, let's check in with Captain Willie, who's over 75th Street in Ocean City. And Willie, we've been monitoring this for a while, and it looks like the damage really has been limited right there to 75th Street as we look at this crew working to restore power in the area.
That's what it looks like from Chopper 16 here, Steve. It looks like the wind went right down the street here on 75th. What we're looking at right now is some utility work at the corner of a motel. We can pan out and move to the right a little bit. You can see that the roof was just stripped off of that motel. There are some workers up there right now assessing the damage, and of course there were some windows blown out on the front of this building and whatnot. So this wind that went, I still, I guess, don't know what kind of wind it was, but it went right down 75th Street and did quite a bit of damage.
Now, WBOC News at 6, Delmarva's news leader.
Shake, rattle, and roll. The camera that's always aimed at the White House captures what we all felt this afternoon. A rare earthquake hits the East Coast. Here on Delmarva, people poured out of buildings and into the safety of the streets.
The way it was swaying, I panicked and I ran out, and the two customers I had in the store at the time, we all ran out, and I saw everybody. I panicked. I was nervous.
And without a doubt, one of the worst possible places you could be during any earthquake is on a scaffold about 60 feet above the ground, repointing a chimney. That's where Walt Tawes was this afternoon in Salisbury. He says he thought the whole thing was a joke.
It was really scary. I thought somebody was down here below shaking the scaffold. It was really bad. I had to come down. It was the worst thing I ever experienced.
6 years ago, this was video from an innocent visit with Earl Bradley. But knowing what we know now, the video is chilling. The former Delaware pediatrician is now accused of raping children. In this recently uncovered video, Bradley picks up the child in the palm of his hand. The child is wearing just a diaper. You can see the Disney decorations in the exam room. Now, listen as Bradley describes an outbreak of hand, foot, and mouth disease in Sussex County at the time.
That's typically a summer virus that comes every year, but this year particularly it's been a real epidemic. A lot of daycares have sent kids to be checked for it.
The video was part of a story that aired on WBOC in 2004. That was then. This is now.
Dr. Bradley, are any of these charges against you true? Do you have anything to say to the patients or their parents?
Bradley is accused of sexually assaulting more than 100 children over several years. The mother says the 3-month-old child was undergoing a routine exam and was not a victim. We showed her the video.
Just the thought of his hands on him, you know, it just so uneasy.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Steve Hammond in the WBOC Newsplex, and we are on the air with the verdict in the Earl Bradley case. Notorious pedophile pediatrician Earl Bradley guilty on all 24 counts. Judge William Carpenter handing down that decision just moments ago. Bradley guilty of sexually assaulting 86 of his young patients, attacks that he recorded on video. Remember, as we await Michael Laparty getting wired up, who's just exiting the courtroom right now, it was a one-day trial a couple of weeks ago. Bradley's defense team did not put on any defense, really. Bradley agreeing to what they call a stipulation of facts, allowing that 13 hours of video to be submitted as evidence. This whole case really revolves around those video files. The defense's strategy has been to let Judge Carpenter convict Bradley, which happened just a few moments ago. Then the defense will appeal this decision to the Delaware Supreme Court.
Crews remove and trash the remnants of former pediatrician Earl Bradley's offices. With help from local contractors and state officials, the day many were waiting for finally came.
And my daughter was molested by Dr. Bradley back in 1999, and it took basically 10 years from the time that happened until he was finally arrested.
This mother, whose identity we are protecting, says she is sick when she drives by the offices every morning. Its destruction puts her at ease.
Watching about 7:30 this morning, the beginning part of it being razed, it was just a sense of relief that it'll be gone, that we don't have to see that every day.
We usually think of fire in the wildlands as a destructive force to be fought with every resource at hand, but it can be used as a management tool. Here on the Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge, rangers are starting a planned burn designed to improve the wetland habitat. Wind conditions, temperature, humidity, available fuels, and natural barriers have to be just right before the fire is lit. The border of the burn is formed by this man with a drip torch. A line of flames follows him as he directs their path like a pyrotechnic ringmaster. A pair of swamp buggies riding on wide tracks follows him, spraying water on stray blazes to keep the upwind end of the fire line from creeping into the forest. All these precautions are crucial in keeping under control this awesome and eerily beautiful force of nature. The smoke billows skyward and the flames dance crazily in their own whirlwinds. These prescribed burns help to control invasive species like Phragmites and the habitat-destroying nutria.
In 1888, camp meetings for worship and revival were held in midsummer between the planting and the harvest. Here in this grove of oaks there are 47 little cottages called tents, and they surround a large tabernacle that's used for preaching and socializing. The tents are individually owned, and some have belonged to families for generations. During meetings, the front of the cottages are open to the center of the circle, allowing the maximum of fellowship and fun. The population varies from year to year, but the spirit of the annual assembly remains pretty much the same. The meaning of the name has been lost to time. The first European settlement dates back to the 1660s, and the town became a busy port for local farm products. In the 1870s and 80s, the Powell brothers built up a shipping business, sold lots for development, and renamed the village Powellton. In 1874, the post office rejected the name and Wachapreague was chosen instead. In 1902, the Wachapreague Hotel was built and became a landmark and hub for the local economy. It catered to hunters and fishermen. The area was so popular that the steamboat from New York to Norfolk made regular stops here.
The islands in the Chesapeake Bay are slowly but surely being eaten away by the rising waters, the wind, and the waves. James Island in Dorchester County is a living example of this process. A look at its shoreline shows the water stained by freshly eroded soil and trees toppled into the bay as the land disappears from beneath their roots. Just a few miles to the north, that process is being reversed. Poplar Island in Talbot County had been reduced from over 1,000 to just 5 acres before restoration efforts brought it back to its original size. Dikes along the shoreline protect it from erosion, and the land was rebuilt using dredge material from shipping channels into the Baltimore harbor. When complete, the project will have used 40 million cubic yards of soil. Construction began in 1998 and will continue until 2020.
It can be stressful work, perhaps even more stressful for Army Reserve Sergeant Joseph Green, who is the liaison with the families of the fallen.
Well, we approach it very gently. Definitely have to have a lot of compassion for what we do. We just try to be as supportive as we can be with the family, and making sure that while they're here in Dover, that whatever their needs may be, that we can try to accommodate.
Green is often joined by Chaplain Charles Wallace to comfort the families.
I'm here to be present with them in a very difficult time in their life. And we hug them if they need a hug. We put our arm around them. I pray with them. Basically, from beginning to end, while they're here at Dover to see the dignified transfer, we walk with them and we're present.
And Wallace also helps to counsel the men and women here who deal with death on a daily basis.
One of the phrases that I hear frequently is, I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and none of this is real.
It is a stressful, gut-wrenching job done, I say, by unsung heroes in our own backyard who many people on Delmarva don't even know about.
This is my job and I'm going to do it the best that I can do for the heroes that are coming home.
Heroes like Christian Romig, who paid the ultimate price and received dignity, honor, and respect in Dover on their final journey home.
Tonight, a special heart and soul. WBOC's Lisa Bryant joins us in the next news collection. And Lisa, a tough story to actually have to tell, but there are a group of volunteers out there helping parents cope with a young life lost too soon.
That's right, Don. It's called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. The network of about 7,000 volunteer photographers helps families dealing with the grief and pain of losing a baby by offering professional heirloom photographs. It's something a grieving family may not think about in this time of sorrow. But as I found out, for one local family, it is something they will cherish forever. Halsey and Benita are in love and living the American dream, a dream that includes a family of their own.
Being a mother is very important to me because children are very important, and you look forward to being a mother.
But that dream quickly became a nightmare when Benita's first pregnancy ended in miscarriage. The little girl they named Rosio died 6 months into the pregnancy.
I felt like I didn't want to live anymore. All of my illusions were gone, destroyed.
Picking up the pawpaw, put it in your pocket. Picking up the pawpaw, put it in your pocket. Picking up pawpaw, put it in your pocket. Way down yonder in the pawpaw patch.
Lots of people remember that old nursery rhyme, but very few recall the pawpaw of which they sing.
He eats watermelon, but he won't eat
You
a
eat
pawpaw?
pawpaw?
I love them.
So you pick them
Except for so much. You want me to get you one?
Now, Blair Rannenberger and Billy Truitt were hauling some corn fodder when we were taking pictures.
Pawpaws. Where we came over here.
Oh, I got some right there.
Where?
Right there.
Hey, this weekend, don't miss an all-new episode of Outdoors Delmarva with Mike Parker and Captain Willie Dykes. This week, the guys take the show to Worcester County for the 31st Annual Ocean City Shark Fishing Tournament. Here's Mike now with a preview from the weigh-ins.
Well, as you can see, we are in the thick of things here in West Ocean City, Maryland this week for the 31st Annual Ocean City Shark Tournament. And all you have to do is take a look behind me to see what all of the excitement is about. Talking about the crew of the Triple Threat who just boated this 174-pound Mako shark. Absolutely beautiful. Mind if I ask who I'm talking to right here?
Mike Schmidt.
Mike, where are you from?
St. Mary's. We're out by the Fingers. Billy saw one fitting right by the farthest balloon away. Waited a couple minutes. He came right in, popped the first line. Nick jumped on the rod. It was a fight. Fight was on. It was an hour. Came out of the water at least 3 times. Went under the boat. It was a nice fish.
Now, first at 5 on Fox 21.
A life sentence, not a death sentence. That's the fate for Sarah Foxwell's murderer, Thomas Leggs. Today's plea bargain is actually supported by little Sarah's family.
A death sentence for Thomas Leggs would have been a life sentence for the Foxwell family.
Good evening, I'm Alice Davis.
And I'm Steve Hammond. This is First at 5 on Fox 21. In Cecil County Circuit Court this morning, Thomas Leggs Jr. told the court, quote, "I am guilty." Those were his words after being asked if he kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and murdered 11-year-old Sarah Foxwell just days before Christmas back in 2009.
As painful details of Sarah Foxwell's death were described in the courtroom today, it was hard to find anyone who wasn't affected emotionally. But Thomas Leggs didn't show the courtroom his emotions until he elected to make a tearful statement to Sarah's family.
I didn't know what he was going to say. Actually, was hoping he would say nothing, because to me it wasn't anything but him making an excuse.
In it, Leggs said there was no excuse for his monstrous act. He also said he's thankful the family spared his life and that he will spend the rest of his life doing whatever is necessary to make sure this never happens to another child.
It meant nothing to me.
And that seemed to be the sentiment shared by Sarah's mother, Jennifer.
It was almost like an insult. I took it as an insult. So.
Do you think he was sincere?
No, ma'am, I do not.
No.
Despite Leggs' statement, the family has no intention of offering forgiveness.
Absolutely not. You heard what I said when the court was over. Right in hell.
On WBOC News at noon.
A Maryland man is sentenced to death for the murder of patrolman Chad Spicer. I'm Michael Leparty live in Georgetown. What both sides are saying about the judge's decision.
Now, WBOC News at noon, Delmarva's news leader.
A jury convicted him of murdering a Georgetown police officer. Today, a judge sentenced Derek Powell to death for the crime.
The judge called Powell a self-centered person who defied all authority. After the sentence, Powell's mother cried and stormed out of the courtroom, but members of the Spicer family called the judge's decision justice.
The parents of fallen patrolman Chad Spicer hugged friends outside the courthouse. Minutes earlier, a judge sentenced Derek Powell to death for the murder of their son.
Does the punishment fit the crime?
Well, I think both summed it all up. Justice was served.
Justice was served. How are you doing since? How's the healing and closing process?
I'll be dealing with it the rest of my life. Norman and I will, and so will Aubrey.
The Spicers were surrounded by police officers as they made their way out of court.
It was just very nerve-wracking. Very, very nerve-wracking.
Georgetown Police Chief William Topping called the death penalty, quote, fitting for Powell.
He has no redeeming qualities, and he has no business out here in society amongst you people and the normal traveling public.
Inside court, Powell stood silent. Judge T. Henley Graves said, quote, Powell did exactly what he wanted to do, regardless of consequences. The judge called Powell, quote, an explosive, violent, dangerous person.
I didn't know what the judge's decision was going to be. I'm very pleased that justice has been served for Chad Spicer and his family and the community in Georgetown.
Powell offered little reaction as he stood up in court, but members of his family sobbed as the judge read his decision.
Mr. Powell, do you have any comment today?
Powell's father did not speak afterwards. Defense attorney Stephanie DeSantis says her client is keeping a brave face.
Obviously, this is a sad day for Mr. Powell. We're hopeful that on an appeal that the Supreme Court will find a reason to spare his life. The fight is not over. It's just beginning.
Hey, how you doing, folks? Welcome to the Final Score. I'm Scott Abraham. It's the final week of the high school football regular season in the Bayside Conference. For the most part, we have a pretty good idea of which teams will be heading to the state tournament. As of right now, Queen Anne's would be on the outside looking in. The 2A East race is extremely tight. The Lions had to take care of business tonight against rival Ken Island, plus get some help in order to receive a bid into those playoffs. The Lions and the Bucks is our game of the week. Chopper 16 making the trip out to Centerville. Second quarter, Ken Island leading 7-3 and tacking more on the board. Look at this run by Matt Malecki. Breaks 4 tackles on his way to the end zone. Make it 14-3 Bucks. Queen Anne's in a big hole. Needing a spark, Toby Dixon rises to the occasion. Breaks off a 50-yard run down the sideline. He is tackled at the 6. A couple of plays later, quarterback keeper Billy Lewis crosses the goal line. The Lions right back in it, down 14-10. After a Ken Island punt, Queen Anne's goes right down the field again. Joey Clark scores. The Lions now lead 17-14. Same score, still second quarter. Lewis tossing a strike to Bradley Schrader. 40 yards on the touchdown. Queen Anne's led 24-14 at the half. Folks, look at this score. Undefeated, no more. The Lions win 31-21, but unfortunately, they will miss out on the playoffs this season.
As WBOC proudly presents a preview of Chicken Stock Live 2011.
Well, good evening and welcome to WBOC's preview of Chicken Stock Live 2011. Well, you've probably seen the billboards and wondered what in the world is Chicken Stock Live. Well, we just gave you a little taste of what it is. It's a concert with legendary performers. What the event is for is so much bigger. As WBOC's Co-M shows us, the lives of 3 different people are being touched by one common thread: the United Way of the Lower Eastern Shore.
Kenny Barnes had a lot of questions when a doctor told him he had multiple sclerosis at 24 years of age.
Why me? Why me, Lord? Why me?
Within 4 years, the Snow Hill man would no longer be able to walk, bound to his chair, but not limited.
How y'all doing?
His motto is, "It gets better," a message he shares with his self-advocacy group at Dove Point in Salisbury.
There's no need to be sad. There's somebody worse off than you.
And as we continue our business challenge, so far we have 76 businesses that have donated at least $1,000 to bless our children. Thank you to all of you that have helped. And you still have time to write that check and help bless our children now. Take a look at this. With your help, Delmarva, we have surpassed last year's total of $160,000 by going over $171,000 this year. And yes, we are still accepting donations to reach even more children than ever before through 70+ charities.